Hello there and welcome back. And in this section, what we're going to do is talk a little bit more specifics about financing your investment and then what we think about debt. You know, there is good debt, there's not so good debt, there's bad debt. And so we want to get into that a little bit just to make sure that you're prepared financially to do what you need to do in order to build wealth through investing in real estate. So let's take kind of our first idea here. And this is, we want to get into a quality property. And we want to make sure that we have a quality tenant, be it either short-term or long-term. And so my normal recommendation is if you're really going to get into this and you want to do it right and you want to get a good tenant in a good appreciating neighborhood in a good city, then you need about $50,000 to start. You know, this doesn't mean that that's all you need, but you know, the thing is this is what we want to do. We want to start off really, really well and not badly. It's not easy to find something under $200,000 anywhere right now. The average cost, the median cost of a house is getting close to $500,000 in the United States. It's about $286,000 in those linear markets. So we can find something around 200 that really is a good property, even in some cases a brand new property. And we want to be realistic about holding on to that property. In other words, there's a lot of numbers that are involved here that we're going to get into. And again, we want to focus on what I call an executive lease. So an executive lease could be a really nice college-educated, white-collar type worker that we're all familiar with. Doesn't mean blue collar's out the question. I mean, there's plumbers right now making more money than executives. I know people that work for Boeing on planes that are private contractors that you take all the benefits. It's over $100,000 in an affordable market with a low cost of living that works extremely well. You know, so those are the things that you really want to look for in terms of the type of property that you're going to buy. So we're going to take the 20% down payment. We're going to use that as an example, which is, you know, where you don't have to pay mortgage insurance. So we're starting out with $40,000, first of all, and so $160,000. So you're starting with equity, essentially, and hopefully it appraises for more than the $200,000. So let's use about $5,000 in closing costs that you're going to use in various ways. Now, sometimes you can get incentives from the builder. This may modify things a little bit, or you may still spend that $5,000 by doing what we call an interest rate buy down and then your other cost. But also, if you're buying an existing property, first of all, you're going to get inspections and you want repairs done, but doesn't mean that you may not have $1,000 or $2,000 of extra that you need to put in there. Maybe you're going to repaint the interior, you know, again, get rid of that flat paint and get into a semi-gloss or a satin or things of that nature. So plan on having that also, but that's not going to be the only thing that you need. You're also going to need reserves. So I always like to tell people, prepare for the worst case scenario, hope for the best case scenario, and then there's the likely scenario. And the likely scenario, let's say the first rent that you do, the first tenant's always the hardest because you don't own it yet. The second tenant, it's a lot easier because they give a 45-day notice. So we plan on 30 days of vacancy. But what if you get one of those outliers and you want to be able to prepare yourself for 60 to 90 days? Now, that's not what we want, but the thing is, remember, you're financing this and you're holding this for a long time, at least probably 10 years. So the first one's going to be the most difficult one. So we want to prepare for the worst case scenario. We don't want it to happen, but if you have these reserves, then the tension, the anxiety level, the ability to sleep at night, just a whole lot better. And then what we want to do is, you know, I tell people the worst thing they can do, you know, the worst thing I've ever done is like get into this ego thing where I want to see a lot of money in my checking account. Look at how much I've got. Well, you know, when the banks are paying, you know, 4.25, 4.5% now, where we are right now, or there's some 6% out there, you know, still with low risk, you know, and a savings account with a good bank is not a big risk. We want to make sure our money makes money. And so if you're getting positive cash flow, that's another thing that you can do is, you know, make sure that the money's making money. You know, 2 years ago, it was 0.5%, you know, which, yeah, that's nothing. Now, you know, with the interest rates where they are, that's a lot. Now, your financial advisor is going to help you out, talk to you about the kind of investments that have no or low risk and the kinds that do. So we want to maximize your liquid cash. And again, this is all a part of building that wealth position that you want to take it down the road for you and your family. So look for that for your reserves. Look for that in terms of getting those higher rates. And again, financial discipline is always extremely important. I'm not a big debt person. I think that mortgages are fantastic because you can buy, as I've said before, instead of doing a $200,000 cash purchase, you've got 4 homes now that you can buy. And those 4 homes are going to create a whole lot more wealth for you. So what's really bad is high rates. Rates that are, 21, 24, 30%, and that's basic credit cards. So, we don't want to finance our lives anymore. The whole point is we're changing not just our ability to buy investment real estate, but our whole financial aspect, our whole thought processes are changed at that particular point because, and I've been there before, by the way. I've been one of those younger people that wanted it now. And then I realized that I can't even pay off the principal anymore. I'm just paying, the principal's going up, in terms of that. So you want to do that. And, again, put your profits in an interest-bearing account, even if it's 2.5%. That's better than nothing. And then leave that money alone. Don't go, oh, well, I'm going to get a new sailboat or something of that nature. But, leave it alone. Let it build, or maybe invest it somewhere. But, leave it alone, or basically maybe it builds up for your next rental home that you're going to buy. But again, understand this, I can give you, or any real estate expert or real estate specialist can give you a lot of advice, but you basically need to back it up with somebody that's doing your taxes and your financial advisor that's helping you build wealth through various investments. So your CPA is going to understand real estate. They're going to understand every aspect of it. If they don't, I don't think so. I don't think you're going to do that. On your financial advisor, understand that there's some people that are biased against real estate. Very simply, they don't get paid. They don't get a commission for buying your investment through stocks or mutual funds or whatever, or selling them where they make money too. And they should make money, by the way. I'm not saying that they should not, but understand that real estate's a whole separate category. I can tell you the financial advisor I have, very strong on real estate, owns real estate herself in terms of rental properties. So, get somebody that's good at that. Get somebody that's not going to say, oh, you shouldn't invest in real estate. So you want somebody that says, okay, this is part of your portfolio. It's an important part, and here's what it's doing positively for you. And they're going to analyze risk for you, and that's important. Now, let's go a little bit more in understanding how to think about debt. Again, this is my personal opinion about this. Take it for what you will, but hopefully you're going to agree with me on some of these things. And again, we kind of said a little bit this before, but credit cards and high interest rates, they're killers. They're not even a zero-sum game. They're a negative game, as I said before. And, the thing is the millionaire next door, Dave Ramsey, whatever, they're going to tell you, don't get into these. I love credit cards. I use them. I have 3 that I use on a regular basis. I pay them off, and I use all my business expenses, all my expenses I pay with credit cards, and I pay them off at the end of the month so I don't have to pay interest. And all of a sudden I get these points built up on American Express or on a Chase card or a Discover card where you get cash back on various things. And so what happens, this is just money, and it offsets by far the money that you pay for that card every year. In fact, Discover doesn't charge you anything. So the thing is, you can, all of a sudden build up thousands of dollars that you can use for other things. So when I think about credit cards, I don't think about financing something that I can't really afford. Think about it as something that builds my credit, by the way, that credit score, and at the same time gives me the points that I can turn into purchases that I would normally pay cash for. Car loans, that's another thing. It's, right now, essentially, it's gone up. I know that normally, we're at a position later in life where we pay cash, but there was a car that we bought with a 0.9% interest and, on a 5-year loan, which we paid off early, but it was only $400 worth of interest. And, that's not so bad. And the reason why, it's liquidity. The fact is that, $40,000, $50,000, whatever it costs you for that car is not put out cash, especially if you're trying to use that money to buy real estate. And then The Millionaire Next Door, which is still a really excellent book to read about a true millionaire, not an ostentatious millionaire, not somebody in a lot of debt trying to show you they're millionaires, is do you really need a new car? For instance, there's certified cars, where you get it, where there's a warranty that comes in with it, so it may be a way of reducing the expenses on doing that. They offer zero down, great. That's fantastic. As long as the price is right on the car. So, that's another thing that kind of combines. And I'm doing this mainly because I've been there. I don't want you to all of a sudden, be living for your car, especially if the idea is to use things that really appreciate in value and not depreciate in value. And I promise you, I don't like things that depreciate at all. I like things going up. The thing about mortgage rates that's fantastic is the 30-year mortgage. As I said before, 2 countries in the world, we're one of them. And your principal and interest never changes, okay? For that 30 years, it never changes. It's a remarkable document. It's a remarkable thing that you're living in the U.S. to get this thing. And it allows you to beat the rate of inflation. And you can always pay it off early, whatever it takes. You can pay it off in 25, 20, 15, 10, whatever. You can pay extra on the principal if things are going extremely well, if you're trying to get to that zero debt position at some point in your life. And that's another fantastic thing. And again, this is the thing that makes real estate investment attractive. You can't do this on stocks. You can't do it on mutual funds, annuities. There's just nothing like it that you can do. And it spreads out the risk over a long period of time. And if you're going to sell the property, doesn't matter how many years you've got left, you're selling it in 10 or 15 years, because basically you're taking the profits there. So that's the thing. Now the rates are going to be a little bit higher, but 10, 20 years ago, they were a lot more higher for an investor. Now, most of the time it's just about 1 percentage point. So they're fairly tight, with the owner-occupant loans, other than maybe some deals that they have on FHA or something. But in conventional terms, they're pretty close together. And again, it's using other people's money for cash flow. And again, $200,000 cash house certainly is low risk, no risk, but 4 properties for $200,000 gives you 4 rental properties, minimizes your risk. If one's vacant, your 25% vacancy rate, you've got 3 that are paying, 100% vacancy rate on 1, and you're going to have to build these up if you're going to create wealth. Leveraging rental demand is what even wealthy, extremely wealthy people do. And in an ascending appreciation market, which is just about everywhere except a few places right now, you're going to build the wealth. And in population growth, when you're in that and get that right city that's growing, that's more renters coming in. That means supply and demand adjust, means rents go up. Together, it means that everything that you can buy in this scenario is double digits annualized return. That's fantastic, especially on something that's a bedrock investment like real estate. So that's what I think about debt. That's what I think about it, how you get into your first investment and a quality investment. But again, we always have to talk about risk. So what I'm going to do in the next section is talk about what I consider to be something that always exists out there. There's more than 10, but I'm going to hit the high ones, the biggest hits that I can think of. So let's talk about red flags in our next section. So stay tuned.